Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I'm Dr. Anubhuti Yadav from the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Today we are going to talk on module Media and Information Literacy Initiatives in India and the story so far under the paper Media and Information Literacy. After completing this module, you should be able to understand the concept of media literacy. You would know the different media and information literacy initiatives by the government organization, how media studies was introduced in school curriculum. You'll be also introduced to the concept of media clubs in schools, and there are a number of other initiatives like grassroots comics, children's newspapers, Expression India, they started, the film festival. We'll be talking about that also. Cinema as a tool for teaching, and the Filmi Chashma as a concept, and then the Peace Kong Media and Information Literacy Program. When we talk about the media literacy initiative in India, there are a lot of initiatives which were taken in India, as far as the media and information literacy is concerned. One was introduction of media studies in school curriculum. When we talk about the school curriculum, the media was not part of school curriculum till a few years back. But after the National Curriculum Framework 2005, it was actually made part of school curriculum, and we'll be talking about more about how it was introduced in schools. Media clubs in schools, there were a lot of media clubs were set up in schools, and there is a purpose behind why those media clubs were set up in the different schools. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the grassroots comics, which means that when we talk about media and information literacy, we have discussed in our previous lectures that constructing media messages is something which is very important, and grassroots comics will help the students in creating media messages in the form of comics and disseminating information. We'll be talking about children's newspapers. We'll be talking about the festival which was launched by Expressions India. We'll also talk about the cinema as a tool for teaching, and we'll talk about the Peace Kong Media and Information Literacy Program. Before we get into the media literacy initiatives in India, let's try and understand the concept first. In our earlier module, we have talked about it, but this could be a recap of that. So, when we talk about media and information literacy, and when we combine these two terms, according to UNESCO, they have taken these two things together. And according to them, information literacy includes define and articulate information needs, locate and access information, assess information, organize information, make ethical use of information, communicate information, and using ICT skills for information processing. And when it comes to media literacy, it includes understand the role and functions of media in a democratic society, understand the condition under which media can fulfill their functions, then critically evaluate media content in the light of media functions, and then engage with media for self-expression and democratic participation, and review of skills, including ICTs, needed to produce user-generated content. And when we put these two concepts together, we come up with something which is called media and information literacy. And in media and information literacy, all these skills are required, and all these skills are and elements are very important part of media and information literacy. So when we are going to talk about different projects which are being taken in our country, we'll be talking about the projects as such, but when we are talking about projects, these elements are embedded into those projects. So there might be certain projects wherein the focus could be using ICT skills for information processing, or using ICT skills or digital skills for the creation of media messages or for creation of user-generated content. But, all these elements are embedded in the initiatives which we'll be talking about. Now, if we look at the ecology of MIL and the notions of MIL, media and information literacy is a very broad term, and it includes number of other literacies. which includes information literacy, as we've just discussed. It also includes library literacy, which means there's a lot of information which is available in the library. So how to access that particular information, how to organize that information. So that is also a part of media and information literacy. FOE and FOI. So FOE is freedom of expression and FOI is freedom of information literacy. This is also a part of MIL. Digital literacy, how to work with with information and communication technology, how to work with the digital tools, how to access information, how to use them to create information. Then computer literacy, internet literacy, games literacy. Nowadays, there are a lot of video games available, online games available, and we need to be literate about those particular games also. When we get engaged in any games, there in the process we are actually learning a lot. And when you go to a market, go to any mall nowadays, and when you go to a store where these games are on sale, you go to any display unit, you will see that there are a lot of violent games available there. And it is when children or maybe like teenagers and adolescents, when they play such games, there is an impact of those games on these kids and adolescents and teenagers. So the games literacy is also another important area. Cinema literacy, television literacy, news literacy. We actually watch news every day. This is how maybe like in the morning also, like we start our day by reading newspaper, or evening like we would like to watch any news show to know what is happening around the world or what is happening in our country. But even the news literacy is important, because something which is coming as a news might not be totally true, because that is something and that is a piece of information which has been created by someone, which is being constructed by someone. So if someone is constructing or created any piece of information, that person might be having his or her own agenda, or the organization might be having its own agenda behind that particular thing. So the news literacy is something which is very important. Children, students should not feel that if some information is coming as news, so it's a total truth. So we need to question news as well. So news literacy also is a very important part of MIL. Advertising literacy. We see a lot of advertisements every day, whether in the newspaper or pamphlets or television commercials. So a lot of advertisements are coming from different platforms. We sit to work on a laptop, and we know that a lot of online advertisements start popping up. So we need to be advertising literate also. We need to know, like when we are working on any document or any work we are engaged in, and suddenly if we get any advertisement of any tourism agency, we need to know why this particular advertisement is coming at that point of time, because there is a reason behind it. Maybe because we have visited that particular site earlier. So we need to be aware of the advertising literacy also. Then the media literacy, which we have already discussed about. So now coming on to media and literacy. Now let us talk about how media was introduced in school curriculum. Media actually as a subject entered the boundaries of schools, after National Curriculum Framework 2005, and because of one of the key point which was made by the NCF 2005, and that was connecting knowledge to the life outside the school. And this has actually opened the door for the media studies in the school curriculum. And the way other subjects like history, geography, maths, languages, etc. are taught at school, similarly, there is a need to teach media as a subject at school level. Media in different curricular areas, and that is the first thing to have happened in the field of education. While NCERT was working on National Curriculum Framework 2005, and when the new textbooks were being made at that point of time, they've used media messages in the textbook, extensively in their textbook. So if you look at the
books of political science, sociology. In fact, there is this one book which is called Jansanchar Madhyam or Lekhan. It's a book on creative writing that talks about the writing for different medium. So what happened at that point of time, the media was actually, and the media messages were actually integrated in the different curricular areas. So it was not treated as a separate subject, but it was integrated with the different subjects. For example, political science, sociology, languages, and you could see a lot of clippings from the newspapers in these textbooks.
So, in the second phase, focused on mapping of media literacy initiatives across the world. A document was prepared titled Media Literacy Initiative Across the World. The document is the collation of print and electronic material available on media literacy initiative in various parts of the world. Now, when we talk about this media literacy initiatives, across the world, see, MIL is actually given different names. For example, media literacy is one name which is being used. News literacy is used. The analysis is used. Appreciation, media appreciation. I mean, this is also a term which is used for media and information literacy. So, which means that there have been number of programs which were initiated, but by the different names. And this document actually has all those initiatives and across the different continents, and it talks about how it actually started in that particular country.
From the different parts of the world, and also like what is happening in our own country. Now, when we talk about our country, there have been a number of initiatives, but these initiatives are very scattered. And in fact, there are a number of people who had actually started something related to media and information literacy, but themselves they were not aware that that could be a part of media and information literacy. So what we did, we actually collated this particular report. We interviewed media literacy experts, and that comprehensive print report was prepared for the research, and a lot of inputs were taken from that particular book, when the NCERT started working on, this, to introduce this media studies as a subject at school level. Besides this, there were 3 video programs on media literacy initiative in India were also produced. 3 programs talked about the media literacy initiatives. It also talked about the impact of media on children. In fact, the name of the series is Media Matters, and basically it was to promote media literacy in schools. So if you look at this particular series, the first program of that particular series was Impact of Media on Children and Media Literacy as an intervention, and it was an interview with one of the psychiatrists, and who was talking about the impact of media on children and different media product. It was like advertising and the violent programs on television. So the first program was on that. The second program actually collated or documented different media literacy initiatives, and it had a lot of interviews from the experts who are working in that particular field or on those particular projects. And the third program was the diary of a student journalist. Now, this student journalist was working on one student newspaper, and this diary, that student used to keep this diary to jot down her learning, everyday learning of running that particular newspaper. So the format of the program is that the student journalist is reading that particular diary, and every day when they are working on that newspaper, there is some sort of learning which is happening, and she's sharing those learnings in that particular program. Now, all these 3 programs are available on National Repository of Open Education Resources. This is the portal which was launched by National Council for Educational Research and Training, and it was MHRD project. Under this project, there are a lot of open resources available, and there in the video gallery you would find all these programs. Now, the third phase was media as a standalone subject. Now, this phase was followed by the second phase, in which the reading material was prepared for students as well as teachers. Now, see, there were a number of challenges. When it was introduced as a standalone subject, the challenges were most of the teachers, they were unfamiliar with the subject, and we know that they were unfamiliar because they were never they had never themselves read that particular subject. They might be accessing media content the way students were accessing, but the moment they had to teach that, they need to have the understanding of that particular subject. And the reason why they've not read that particular subject was because the subject was not available in B.Ed or M.Ed or in any of the teacher education curriculum. So that was the first challenge. The second challenge which was faced when it was introduced as a standalone subject, teachers, parents, and students, they felt the introduction of this subject may increase the curriculum load. And the subject, since it was introduced in class 11th and 12th, obviously, like at that point of time, the students are preparing for their board exams, and they're already very stressed, and they have a lot of other subjects to study, and then suddenly introducing one more subject, and the subject which requires a lot of analysis exercise, and also like a lot of creation exercise, development exercise, which means it was also a practical heavy subject. So the teachers, parents, and students, they felt that it will increase their curriculum load. It will take a lot of their time, and at the time of the board exams, it will be difficult for them to cope up with this particular subject. And this problem was addressed by offering it as an elective. So it was said that it's not going to be a compulsory subject; it is going to be an elective subject. So these were some of the problems which were faced by when this particular subject was introduced as a standalone subject.
Then we also started teacher training programs because this particular subject, since it was not there in schools earlier, and as the subject was not in the B.Ed curriculum and M.Ed curriculum, so the teacher training programs were organized by Central Institute of Education Technology and National Council for Education Research and Training. School teachers were also trained in media literacy. Various media educators and experts, handling media literacy projects were invited to share their experiences with the teachers. Now, the training programs, it was a huge success where more than 200 teachers were trained in a face-to-face mode, and that was the first time in India when such a training program on media literacy was organized for teachers.
So a lot of training programs were organized. There were around 200 teachers who were trained in the field of media studies. In fact, the modules were made for them, and those modules were distributed to them. These teachers were from the private schools, they were from the government schools also, and there was a lot of enthusiasm, when they were coming to these training programs, because for them also it was the first exposure in analyzing those media messages and creating those media messages, creating their own program, recording their own panel discussion. So there was a lot of enthusiasm amongst these teachers.
So, introduction of subject media studies as a subject was introduced in school as a pilot project. Teachers who were open to the idea of having media discourse at school level were quite apprehensive of having it in the form of a new subject. So, at the time of the training program, when we discussed with the teachers, they were really very enthusiastic about it. But the moment it was told that the new subject will be launched, they were quite apprehensive. And according to them, introduction of new subjects would add to the curriculum load, and also they shared their unpreparedness to handle that particular subject. So what next? We actually tried both the strategies to introduce media studies at school level. The first was integrated it with the subjects like languages or social science, as you have seen in some of the slides before, wherein the media content was integrated in the different subjects like social science, languages, But the problem at that point of time was the focus was given more on that particular subject, and the analysis part of and the analysis of media messages was missing. And the second strategy was offering it as a standalone subject. Then there was a lot of consultation with the teachers, and since they shared their unpreparedness to teach that particular subject, because one, they were not ready, and the second was, they said that it will add to the curriculum load, then came the idea of establishing media clubs in schools.
So, objectives of the media clubs were to develop among students an understanding of the effects of mass media on themselves as individuals and also upon society, and how the media influence our understanding of reality. To develop skills to deconstruct media messages by making them understand the constructed nature of media. And this was actually done by introducing students to various skills wherein they could themselves construct media messages. For example, they were working on a school newspaper, they were working on their school program, video program, they were covering certain events and making their own program, constructing their own messages. And while they were constructing their own messages, they were in a position to understand that, yes, these are the things, these are the elements which goes into making of any media program. Then to develop skills to encourage the production of creative media messages, to encourage students to express their feelings and thoughts through media messages they produce. This was something which was very important because the subject was introduced to the students who are in their teenage and they were facing a lot of problems. And most of the time what happens that they are inhibited, they don't open up, they don't share their problems, their feelings with other people. And this was the project which was done in a number of schools. For example, a program on drug abuse. We know that the drug abuse is there in schools, but when you talk to students and when you ask them to share that, they won't share that. They won't tell anything about that particular thing which is happening to them and which they are involved in. But the moment you tell them that yes, you have to make a video program on drug abuse, so when they make a video program on drug abuse, you would know that yes, this is something which they are feeling about, this is what they actually went through, and and this is how they feel that this particular problem can be solved. So once they start expressing their feelings through this media, they actually understand that particular problem in a much better way, and they were also offering solution to overcome that particular problem. And this is something which was very successful, in all those media clubs. And then to introduce students to various career opportunities in mass media. Since they were, understanding and they were learning media as a subject, we felt that it was important to tell them, what career opportunities lies in front of them. So there were students who were interested in script writing. There were students who were interested in, camera handling. There were students who were interested in making infographics. So they need to know like what lies ahead, even if they had to take admission in graduation, but they should be very clear that, if they are planning to have a career in this particular field, so what are the various options which are available to them. So this is the website of Media Club, and you can visit this particular website and you can see, what all activities students are involved in. You can see some of the products which are being made by students. Now, coming on to some other initiatives, this is one of the initiatives. This is called Filmi Chashma, and this organizes a lot of film appreciation workshop. And basically the objective of this particular program is to screen films and ask students to analyze those particular films and to understand what that message was all about. This is a school cinema, and this is also a very interesting project. In this, different modules are prepared, and the films related to the moral values and the issues which are relevant to the students are made, and those films are integrated into the curriculum. And this is another project. This is something which is very interesting, and this is the Young Filmmakers Festivals, and it's an international festival which is organized by the Expressions India. And basically, they are working on life skills for social change. So every year they organize this particular contest, wherein the young people, they come up with their films and they participate in this particular festival. And during the festival also, there are a lot of workshops which are being organized for them on film appreciation or handling camera or writing script. So that's another project which is working in the field of media literacy. Then the Peace Gong Children's Newspaper. This is the most successful program, media literacy program, and this is the newspaper which is run by children. And the articles which are there, they are written by the children. So everything, from writing an article to selecting certain articles, interviewing experts, everything is done by the students. And this is the World Comics Network, which means in this, the comics are being used as a tool for media and information literacy. And as we have discussed, when we talk about media and literacy, the most important thing is, creating messages. And by creating messages, one should be able to express his or her own feelings. So according to this project, a lot of comic making workshop is organized at the grassroots level, and the people, they come up with their own issues, they convert that into a comics, and that's how they are communicating their feelings and disseminating messages related to their life or the problems which they are facing to other people. These are some of the examples of the kind of comics which are made by students. And so this is, the media and information literacy project, and students are involved in number of such activities, and it's not something which can only be done by adults. If the students are involved in that, and if they are taught how to work on different messages, they can also come up with the excellent media.
So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. This module basically focused on how media as a subject was introduced in school. We also discussed about the various media and information literacy initiatives which was started in our country by the different organization, both the government organization, private organization, and also NGOs. And we talked about those particular projects. I've shown you some of the clips of those projects and the websites of those projects. If anytime you want to visit them, you can visit them also. Now there are certain things which we need to do to strengthen something which is going on in our country related to media and information literacy. The first thing is that there is a need to strengthen the existing media clubs and establishing new ones. So when I'm talking about strengthening existing media clubs, which means that we need to train those coordinators who are running media clubs, we have to develop more activities for them. Then we need to conduct workshops in schools for teachers and parents to introduce MIL curriculum, and it could be in collaboration with number of organizations who are working in this particular field, like UNESCO, IMC, Peace Gong, NCERT. So all these organizations, they have to be on one platform to offer this to our students. There is a need for the formulation of national policy on MIL, and Information and Broadcasting and Ministry of Human Resources and Development can work towards that. There's also a need for a lot of MIL ambassadors, which means like these teachers who have actually been trained in media and information literacy. For example, teachers like you who are looking at these modules or watching these particular programs or taking this MOOC on SWEM, you should act as MIL ambassadors and try and introduce this concept of media and information literacy in your area, in the schools around you. And also, like, you can always offer online courses on media and information literacy once you are trained in this particular area. There should be an online platform to connect MIL initiatives. So, as we have seen that there are a lot of organizations working on media and information literacy, but the problem is, all these initiatives are scattered. They are in the different directions. There is no one platform wherein we can go and access all these MIL initiatives. Also, there is a requirement to introduce MIL in B.Ed courses, because if the teachers, they need to be trained in this particular area, and if they won't study this particular subject when they are preparing themselves for the teaching profession, they won't be media and information literate, and they won't be able to communicate this concept to their students. And also there is a need to organize continuous seminars on media and information literacy.